Hey everybody, welcome back to GWN. I am Noctair, your host. For those of you who are just coming by for your first visit, thanks a lot. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy these videos. Please do hit the subscribe button down below and help us build the channel up. For those of you that are returning visitors, hey, welcome back. So it's been a little while since I've talked about much in the way of air troops, and I wanted to talk about one I've been tinkering around with a little bit here lately, namely the GiWitch attack strategy, and that's Boxer Giants and Night Witches. The Night Witch can be a bit of an unpredictable troop. Sometimes she does exactly what you want, while other times the pack just kind of goes awry for no readily apparent reason. Back at Builder Hall 6, the Night Witch really came into her own at level 12 with the Mitch attack strategy, Beta Minions and Night Witches, and that worked well all the way into Builder Hall 7 until dropships took over and kind of carried us airbenders into Builder Hall 8. Now, here at Builder Hall 8, Night Witches kind of get rejuvenated because you've got that additional camp and you can send in more tanks with, like, Boxer Giants. So it really expands the... let's just call it the ability of the attack to do damage. Now, I'm not going to lie, Night Witch attacks do tend to be a little bit spammy, but it's not all spam. You've got to identify the right deployment vectors for both your tanks and the Night Witches. And what's more, you really got to manage your tanks carefully to keep the Night Witches alive. They're still pretty weak and highly susceptible to a centralized multi-mortar. Likewise, the bats will fall very quickly when fired upon by air targeting defenses, especially the roaster. So the tanks are really important, and that the pathing is important as well, whether it's the Night Witches or the Boxer Giants or even the Battle Machine. Now, the key to successfully using any troop at Builder Hall 8 is knowing when to use that strat. For GiWitch, I prefer to use it against these homebrew box bases and diamond bases with the multi-mortar at the top. To be honest, the multi-mortar, when it's easily accessed from anywhere, I'm going to consider using the Night Witch. And the reason for that is that once the multi-mortar is gone, the Night Witch does pretty doggone well. Those bats, as long as you keep your Night Witches alive, and the splash damage, of course, is their biggest enemy, the bats will just keep on coming, and they'll just keep on doing their thing until eventually they take down just about any defense that you go against. Now, you'll see a few of these homebrew box bases in this particular video, and I can't emphasize enough how much I like using the Night Witch attacks against these bases, because they're not... I hate to say that they're not good bases, because some of them are okay, but they're just not very good at defending against these spammy attacks where you send a whole bunch of troops at the defenses at one time. And I think it has more than anything else to do with the pathing, to be perfectly honest. You'll see this with the Rage Barbarians, whether it's just a straight up Rage Barbarian attack and nothing else, or if it's, Bombarian Cars or Bark or whatever. When you can throw a whole bunch of attacking troops at a base and it can't split those troops up, it can't isolate them so they can be taken out, then that troop is going to do very well against it. And that's exactly what you see with a lot of these box bases. If the multi-mortar is under construction or easily accessible and you can get it taken out early, that will also be a pretty good base to go after with GiWitch. Now, it's not by any stretch of the imagination a top-level attack strategy, at least not at the time of this video. It's more something that you're going to use throughout the 3000s. It'll work okay up into the 4000s as well. I've taken it as high as 4500, but I usually like to stick around 4000 with it on most of my games when I use it. A lot of people down in the 3000s, whether it's 3000, 3500, whatever, are complaining about Night Witches being used very heavily down there. So, I mean, it's definitely a strong and viable strategy down throughout the 3000s. I've been using it on the KVN account here for the last couple of weeks, pretty much exclusively. I'm not using anything else. And I hang around 4,000 without any problem. I think right now I'm at 3950. I did some more tests today, so I dropped down a little bit. But that's a pretty good level to be at, especially if, it's one of your alts or you're just building it in general. I don't really see much point in pushing trophies and trying to get into the top leaderboards until your base is maxed anyway. So I'm happy with it. I like it. I think I'm running about a 60% win ratio on it as well. So typically out of 5 attacks, I'll win 3 out of 5, which is a pretty good rate. Maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes per attack, so 10 to 15 minutes a day on a game running this this attack strategy. That works for me. That works really well. Now, you can run it as a 3 and 3 or a 2 and 4. I usually run it as a 2 and 4 with 2 camps of Boxer Giants and 4 camps of Night Witches, because I want to have those additional bats. The more bats you can get in the swarm, the better the attack strategy is going to do for you. The 3 and 3 is something I reserve typically for when I come up against a base that's got stronger defenses and I need a little bit more tanking. That's especially going to be the case around season reset. I like to sit the season reset out on most of my alt games, my minis if you will, because I don't really want to fight these fully maxed bases with something that's got mostly level 7 defenses. But once you start to see the stronger defenses, these ones that come down to season reset, that's when I will typically switch over to something like a 3 and a 3 to get the additional tanking power. A lot of players have resorted to putting Mega Mines strategically to disrupt these kinds of attacks, especially down in the 3000s. So use your Giants to suss those out. 2 different initial deployment vectors for the Giants. Either from a corner, I'll drop 3 of them. You can see that in this particular video, 1, 2, 3. They come in kind of a triangle that covers a pretty good spread and will trigger most of the Mega Mines in the corner. On the edge deployments, I'm going to drop 4 of them, maybe a ½ inch to an inch apart, somewhere in that ballpark, and let them just walk straight into the base. Now, likewise, the Night Witch deployments will either go from the corner with all the Night Witches dropped in one place to get a single huge swarm heading straight into the base, or if it's an edge deployment, I'll put typically 2, 2, 2, and 2, about ½ inch apart or so that I still have the benefit of a couple of swarms, and the bats tend to work together and take out any kind of air defenses on their first volley going in. You got to be careful about the spread of those edge deployments, because the strength of the Night Witch, like I said, is in her bats. It's fun to watch umpteen bats just pummel a defense into oblivion, and that's why these corner deployments work so well. But if you do an edge deployment where you come in along one of the 4 lines of a typical square, rectangle, or even diamond-shaped base, you don't want them to go too far apart. And the reason for that is because, just having 4 to 10 bats, it's not going to do nearly as much damage as when, all 8 of your Night Witches fire off a gazillion of those things and they go in a swarm. So you want to keep them still relatively close together as you send them in. Now, the second part of this attack, of course, is how the tanks keep the Night Witches alive. Like I said, they're pretty weak. It's not going to take much to take them out. You've got to keep that multi-mortar busy. You've got to keep the roaster away from them when you can. You need to watch out for the double cannons and keep those away from them. So what you want to do is make sure you're trickling in your Giants. And that's what I do in most of these attacks. There's a couple attacks back where I just spammed them. It ended up being a 3-star. That usually doesn't work, guys. Usually you need to take your Boxer Giants in strategically, a few at a time, a couple at a time, sometimes even one at a time after the initial salvo goes in, so that they can absorb the firepower of the defenses and keep your Night Witches alive. What's the role of the battle machine in this attack? Well, the battle machine is another tank. Now, you can put everything down at once. You can put him in at the early part of your attack. You can put him at the middle of your attack. I tend to go more towards the middle to end. And the reason for that is I want to let the Boxer Giants do most of the initial defensive damage. Hopefully take out that giant cannon so that it doesn't take my battle machine down so quick and easy. But I want that battle machine to come in towards the end of the attack to absorb what's left of the defenses, to really become kind of a focal point. And he has the most hit points of anything. I mean, he blows any giant away. And initially, all those Giants are going to be distracting a bunch of different defenses. At the end, you're only going to have a few defenses left, and you want those to focus on the one, in this case, the battle machine. That's why, in my opinion, this attack works so well with those tanks. They keep everything alive, so that you can make it down to the end of the attack and only have a few buildings left over that you need to take out with what remains. So that is the Giant and Witch strategy, the GiWitch strategy. Hope you guys find this useful. Comments, suggestions, questions down below, and if you want to, you can feel free to email me, nocterra@gmail.com. Please do pound the like. This will be the first video of the week on the beginning of the air. We've got some stuff with minion drops coming up. I'm going to try to get a little bit of Mitch out to you, and a few other ones. So stay tuned. Be sure to check back and see the new videos. On that note, I'm out of here. Thanks a lot for sticking around to the end. Y'all take care and keep on clashing. Bye-bye.